Eat like you love yourself. That's one of the probably the most corny things I say is eat like you love yourself. But that's the nutrient-rich lifestyle is has a lot to do with it. It's compassion for food, compassion for yourself. The list goes on.
It's very easy to overconsume content. We have easy access to things like social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like people are putting out so much content these days that it's very easy to overconsume that. And one of the actions that you can take is to really simplify what information you're getting and where you're getting it from. Hello. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Kylie. How was your week?
Well, it's been a doozy. I mean, the fact that we got an extra day in February is actually really beneficial for me because this week was definitely crazy. Had some travel going on. I was helping my mom recover from surgery and traveled with my little Indigo. She's 2.5 and she's a really fun travel buddy, but it's definitely been a busy week and I'm glad to be here. This is a very grounding place for me. So I appreciate you being here with me today and that we can get into some of this, our next episode of The Green Glow.
Well, yeah, thank you for conserving enough energy to even do this after flying and flight changes and a 2.5-year-old and your mom. And that's a lot to even have any energy left over for. So it's really great timing for us to talk about self-care and yeah, leaving some time for yourself. How the heck do we do that and navigate through all of life's adventures and remember that we matter in ourselves?
For sure. And, here we are. It's February 29th. We got this extra day. And what a great idea to be inspired to do something for ourselves on a day where we get it's almost like free time, right? We were talking about that earlier.
It should be the day that no one has to do anything other than go outside and play. I think the 29th should be a free day for humanity when we only get one every 4 years to go out and do something and have a good time instead of thinking oh, it's another day in the year that I get to dedicate to my employer or to dedicate that time to something. It's an extra day 366 in the year where it's the same thing as to open things up and reset. So if anyone's got extra time on any day of the week, really, and you need to hit reset and go, hold on, what do I need right now for myself? I wish that people would spend more time being selfish in that context. In that context, it's absolutely okay to say, I need some time. And it's not just the bathroom break. It's really
We need more time to dedicate to ourselves for sure. And especially, if you're living with any form of diabetes or any type of chronic health condition, there can be a lot of stress and frustration that comes along with that, navigating blood glucose variability, navigating elevated blood glucose values, and even feeling well enough to take a minute to give yourself some self-care can feel overwhelming and also feel unavailable, really. So, I think this is a really great topic to get into so that we sort of lay a groundwork for what are we prioritizing here? Obviously here at Mastering Diabetes, we prioritize reversal of insulin resistance so that you can feel your best, so you can live your best life. But there's so many different ways of approaching that and going about that. And one of those is through really mindful self-care activities and clearing space for those activities so that you can make those changes that we recommend, add more green light activities in. You need space to be able to add things in.
Space. That's the magic word. We get really focused on the inner circle. For anyone that's watching this, I'm making a little circle here with my hands, but the inner circle is the evidence, right? It's the nutrition and exercise. A lot of it is nutrition because the focus is changed with if it's green light foods or green light habits, but I describe it as the outer ring. There's space in that outer ring that we have to dedicate and devote ourselves to also that can be affecting us, that you have to think about, especially when it relates to blood glucose, is do not forget that stress and sleep are major factors of that. And if we're not doing enough sleep and we're getting too much stress and our blood sugars are high, an effect of the way that we react to that stress, we might just look at the food and blame that every single time. And that might be the last thing that is wrong. It's the thing that's right. So, nice thing is, at least as coaches, we look at things like that and go, hold on, this isn't your fault. What's going on externally around you right now that you are just letting affect you? What are those things? How do we navigate through this? Are they non negotiables? Clearly, family, job, non negotiables. But how do we find a space within this inner ring of nutrition and exercise and what might be most evident, but work with that next outer ring that's affecting so much about the trajectory of our health? We have to be able to steer into the right direction, make different decisions, and change is hard. Clearly, self-destructive habits, they can become comfortable because we're used to it. So, what steps do we take? How do we shift and change?
Oh my gosh, you made so many amazing and interesting points there. When you say about change being hard, it is, our brains are not wired for change. Our brains, I always say our brains don't like it when we change our mind. So when you learn something new and you read the evidence and you read the Mastering Diabetes book and you're like exposed to this information and it feels very exciting, it can feel very exciting. It can feel very like appealing to want to take control of your health and make changes in your lifestyle. But unfortunately, our brain is very resistant to change. It's naturally wired to the path of least resistance. It's naturally wired to want to go back to the habits that you're used to. It's naturally wired to the experiences that you have, like in your senses. So smells, tastes. Your brain is going to want more of the things that you've been used to in your whole life. So if all of a sudden you're saying, no brain, I'm going to start eating smoothie bowls for breakfast, your brain's going to be like, well, wait a second. We always eat eggs and bacon for breakfast. What do you mean we're making smoothie bowls? I don't even know how to use the blender right. Like, why does my smoothie bowl never blend right? So your brain is going to create resistance for you naturally. And so giving yourself space to acknowledge that and also take that step back to say, okay, well then if my brain is going to naturally resist this, what steps can I take in my conscious state, right? Like you have to kind of like supersede the autopilot of your brain and say, well, what steps can I take then to overcome that challenge of that resistance? So, I think that was such a, great point to bring up that change is hard. It's hard for so many reasons.
Yeah, I love the opener about the brain. It made me think as I was writing down that for anyone listening, here's a checkpoint. Are your thoughts getting in the way of your health? Are your thoughts getting in the way of your health? Because we can change the way we think. It took me years it, I would say it took me seconds to know that I needed to change something about my health before this plant-based journey I was on, but it took me years to enact the habits. So it's not an overnight process that's very recognizable, but if you want something better for yourself, you probably deserve it. So accept that you deserve better. That can be one of the hardest things. I'm just going to call out women and women in nursing. So I'm pointing the finger at you, Kylie, but I feel like I've worked with a lot of women in a care position. If women are taking on the mother, the nurse, this role, so to speak, it's everyone's before them. Everyone has come before me. And now I'm finally realizing that I need to give myself time, but I should have been giving myself all this time. So, right there is a checkpoint of don't do the should. Okay, we're here now, we're present. What do you need? So, are your thoughts getting in the way of your health? Let's reframe.
Well, and sometimes our thoughts and the things that we're reading and the things that we're, following not only get in the way, but like can become really consuming. And this is the concept that, I've sort of termed content chocolate, which is what Lauren left us with the last time, because this is a really important topic to think about and to get into when it comes to what freeing up space inside your mind, the mental space to actually start taking action. It's very easy to, again, get really excited by the information you're reading. And all of a sudden, you sign up for a summit, for example, and now you're like connected to all these new people that you never knew about, or you go to a conference, or, all of a sudden you're getting information coming at you from all different places. And it could be that the information is all in this plant-based sphere. However, if you're trying to make changes, there can be some conflicting information. And that can become confusing. And that can also, that can stop you from taking action steps or making changes. And so what content chocolate is this excitement about something new that you're learning about, or something that you really enjoy, looking at or learning more about in your personal life. And it's very easy to overconsume content. We have easy access to things like social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like, people are putting out so much content these days that it's very easy to overconsume that. And one of the actions that you can take is to really simplify what information you're getting and where you're getting it from. And a lot of times, like with my clients, I'll suggest to them, like, maybe it's time to just turn off the noise of outside information. And just, if you believe in mastering diabetes and you believe that this is a way for you to gain control of your health and your blood glucose in the long term, then just listen to Mastering Diabetes, listen to our podcast, listen to read the book, listen to the audiobook, and keep your sort of your zone of information really small for a little bit. You may have to turn off some of the newsletters coming into your inbox. You may have to turn off some of the, stop following some people for a little bit. But it can be really powerful to take control of the information you are consuming and taking in, and especially when it's coming from a trusted source and someone who has kind of done the work for you, and you get to just listen and start applying the information one thing at a time. And that has been very relieving for a lot of my clients and a lot of the people I've worked with. They've found that to be a relief of, like, oh, well, that's true. I don't have to listen to everyone. I can get my information right now from my coach or from the Mastering Diabetes sort of universe, right? And let us be your guides as you're making these changes, because it's one way of simplifying.
I love the word simplify, minimalism. Before I heard your brilliant term of content chocolate, I had gone through phases of that in my time, of like putting on Instagram and then deleting Instagram and then thinking, okay, I need to use this strategically, post the stuff that I'm speaking about, but why do I really care? And nobody really cares. Thinking like strategically, why am I using this? And I think I'm of an age where Instagram didn't come into my life in a point where it mattered so much to maybe my status, like in high school. And that's not even, I don't even want to go there with even imagining what it would be like to be teenage me right now and having Instagram. It would have been not good back in those days of my angriest type 1 diabetes moments. Having Instagram would not have been ideal for me at all. But I catch myself and I go through a little social media fast. So another way of fasting, right? And I don't just mean intermediate, like go for days here where you're not really doing too much with social media, or you're doing a bit of a purge. So you're taking a look at it and you're deciding, this isn't healthy, unfollow. This is not ideal for me to understand, unfollow. I don't need to see this every single morning. And certainly we know that it's not a good habit to wake up and boom, open it up and start doom scrolling before we're even out of bed, unless the only thing you ever see on your phone are happy animal videos that make you smile and want to get up and face the day. And honestly, if we could all, in a perfect universe of social media algorithms, we would only be surrounded in positive things that help us move forward. But unfortunately, that is not how this content works. This crap wants us clicking on stuff to buy, on stuff to fall for. And if you are in the world of health, you are a health seeker, a weight loss seeker, a glucose lowering seeker, you're probably Googling some stuff, like with general terms, that are causing you to see things that certainly are very contradictory to our philosophy here, the whole food plant-based philosophy, period. So those contradictions can cause stress. What else can they cause besides stress? Just confliction. How many times do we see people that are so conflicted by what they're seeing with information that they're like, I don't even want to eat anymore. I don't know what to believe. I am so frustrated. What do I do? And I think we've all probably been in positions like that, where we're even doubting ourselves and our own drive and what we're doing in health. And one thing I definitely catch myself on before I rant too hard here is, if I spend too much time watching another woman on video lift weights than the amount of time I'm lifting weights, That's my problem to begin with. That means Lauren needs to get her butt to the gym. Don't watch other people do it. You go do it.
Just do it. Well, I mean, again, you brought up a few things. You said doom scrolling, like that idea of doom scrolling. I mean, I think we can all just like really get what that means, right? Like that doesn't really need explanation, but it's a really good description. And sometimes those definitions can help us identify when we're doing something, right? Like when you label something and call it what it is, then you can catch yourself in those moments and be like, okay, I hear Lauren, I'm doom scrolling right now. I'm going to stop that to give myself space so that I can stop watching these people eating big salads and go make one. um, and to your point, like the thing that you maybe catch yourself doing is watching other people doing something that you love doing. Like you love lifting weights and exercising and being at the gym and you love those activities. So of course you're naturally drawn to those activities when you're, online. And I know I'm like, if you're listening to this podcast, like maybe think of something that you can connect with right now that you scroll through and look at and want to watch more of. It could be like cat videos, right? Like that's my thing right now, or cat videos, funny cat videos. So maybe there's an opportunity for you if you are looking at lifestyle change right now and you're feeling a little overwhelmed and you're feeling like you don't have the room for it. Maybe there are certain activities that you can pause on in your day, whether it's consuming content in a way that isn't supporting you towards your goals, and give yourself a little more room to go and take action, right? That's what this is really all about. It's about where do we find the space in our lives, in our hearts, in our days to give ourselves room to not feel overwhelmed and to take an action step forward, right? One action step leads to another action step, leads to another action step. And one of the reasons why one of our focus, ideas here at Mastering Diabetes is to start with breakfast when it comes to making changes is because one green light choice will beget another green light choice. So if you start your day off with a green light choice and have a nice, beautiful green light breakfast, you're more apt to make other green light choices throughout the day. You start your day off with that best foot forward. And that's something that is a really great takeaway of, again, creating space for yourself, but also where do I find room? What action steps do I take then? Right. So it's like, okay, let's give ourselves permission for some space and that self-care that comes out of space. And then also, how do we nourish ourselves and move ourselves forward and take those action steps?
So simple is the one thing that I love that word, but also something struck me as you were talking is you're creating a culture around you. Also, we are doing that all the time. There's the culture that we already know that we're used to, that we're born into, but really, if we're trying to change our household, we're trying to create a healthier culture within our community. If it's bigger than that, it can be small. It can be amongst our friends, amongst our family. It could be classes that we're teaching. But if you look at Mastering Diabetes, there is clearly a culture here. There's a culture in content that people can access so much of it for free. And it's very evident what that culture is. And it's getting back to basics, coming back to basics of basic human needs with food, movement, sleeping, stress, managing and monitoring our time and our care for ourselves. I think that's what it inspires. And looking at our coaches too, we're real people who have done something about it. And there's so much inspiration around that. So creating, you have control over some of that culture and what you have going on in your house and what's coming through your phone. You do have control over that. And in a moment where you can stop and notice, gosh, how do I feel after I've consumed a bunch of content in my free time, or the free time that you took as you were scrolling through something? Because we know that 3 seconds of going on and checking something on Instagram can turn into 3 minutes or 30 real quick. If you feel tension in your face, like you feel something rising, the funny thing about it is those of us that are on continuous glucose monitors, dare you to look, because if you have a moment of tension and stress, social media can absolutely induce your blood sugar to rise. Absolutely can, because that's how hormones work. You are causing an environment inside of your body. You are reacting to something you're seeing on the screen that is making you feel not okay. There's kind of a unsafeness that goes on in that is dramatic as that might sound, the fact is, if your blood sugar is rising in the middle of you scrolling through something that made you feel stressed or uncomfortable or made you feel guilty, like I should be doing something I'm not doing, stop and examine those feelings. Stop and think, God, I feel so tense. Why? Why am I doing this to myself? And that's exactly the moment to say, no, I got to purge some of this stuff out of my phone. I don't need to look at this. It's not helpful. I need to limit it. You'd limit your kids, right? Limit you. If you saw your best friend doing it, you'd be like, you got to back up. But let's go outside and play. Hey, it's the
Yeah.
29th.
I know, because it's our extra day. Well, I mean, I really think that's the challenge for this week would be if you are somebody using a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. I mean, what a cool real-time check-in, right? If you are using, if you're finding yourself feeling stressed, if you're finding yourself, whether it's from something that you're seeing on social media or on the online or in the news or anywhere, right? Or if it's just something that you're feeling stressed about, like start noticing those connections with your blood glucose patterns, because that is a really important takeaway. And like Lauren said, this outer ring, this sphere of the things that are within your control, right? The things that you can do to help minimize stress in your life or reduce it so that the cortisol doesn't impact your blood glucose as powerfully. That is in your hands. And that's where I find that, what we do as coaches becomes really fun, because we are pinpointing those moments and saying, okay, well, if you know that your blood glucose is having that response to that stressful trigger, then how do we mitigate that? How do we help you reduce those triggers? Whether it's, setting a time off for your phone, right? Like in the evenings, for example, you've talked about sleep too, and how valuable sleep is. Spending that hour before bedtime screen free actually helps to promote better sleep. Having rituals in the evening to help promote better sleep will help to reduce your stress. Like there are so many little things that you can weave in. And, I'm sure in the near future, we'll be talking about sleep specifically and blood glucose, because it's such a big topic. We certainly can touch on it here, but in terms of stress management and blood glucose in general, sleep is one of the best things you can do for yourself to start give yourself the best start of the day, right? So I do think we should dive into sleep at some point too.
Yeah, sleep and nutrition have such a close relationship. Foods that stimulate serotonin. I mean, there's all these kinds of like nice little things that go on with plants again. And I think that maybe what we could do is ask the listeners for a little something if they want to email us in and tell us, after listening to this conversation, after listening to us rattle on and talk about how we need to take care of ourselves, knock off the doom scrolling and treat ourselves to something, is tell us what you did for yourself this week that you didn't think about doing before we poked you. That's what we're trying to do right now is nudge you, urge you to go head to the gym, go to the dry sauna, get in the hot tub, give yourself the time. Those I'm speaking, that's what I like to do. I love the dry sauna. It helps me calm down. Or take the walk, get outside, get your nails done, whatever it may be. Please let us know what you did for yourself, and we'd be able to put a whole bunch of great things together to hopefully inspire everyone that these are the moments that you get to have for yourself. So
I love that. And, we are wrapping up February, which is of course our love month, our heart health month. And that, we talk about our heart and having compassion for ourselves, having compassion for the world around us. What are you doing to take care of yourself? What are you doing to love yourself? Like if you saw yourself or saw your best friend, like what would you want for your best friend to do for themselves? Right. Sometimes it's easier to think about like how your best friend could, what you would do with them, or to show them how much you love them. Do that for yourself. Like treat yourself like your own best friend, and I love that idea of, we want to hear it. We want to hear all the things that you're doing to take care of yourself. Email us at team@masteringdiabetes.org and we will get the message and we'll talk about it here. That'll be so much fun. So awesome. Well,
yeah, it's kind of like taking all that content chocolate and turning it into something that much sweeter.
Oh, yes, exactly. I love that.
Eat like you love yourself. That's one of the probably the most corny things I say is eat like you love yourself. But that's the nutrient rich lifestyle is has a lot to do with it. It's compassion for food, compassion for yourself, and the list goes on.
It's so true. Oh, I love this. This is such a great topic, and I think that there's so much more about around this topic. So we'll dive deeper for sure. But as we are ending this month, we're heading into March. I'm always a sucker for new beginnings, new chapters, whether it's a cycle of a month or even a cycle of a day. So, the invitation is, what can you do today to take care of yourself, and how can you apply that to this next month as we transition to a new month? We're moving into a new space. What would you like to bring with you that's working? What is something that you can do for yourself in this next month? Don't make it just for one day. Let's carry it on and continue doing that, and see if it makes an impact. See if it helps out. So maybe this is a good opportunity to pinpoint that.
I'm with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lauren. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. And all the inspiration.
Yeah, this is a great chat. And I guess we will see you next time. And glad to be here with you and spend my extra day in February with you today.
Have a healthy week, folks.